Hey, everybody. We are going to go over some data. This is data that I collected not just from my students, but from Mrs. Moscovici students and Mrs. Schiffer's students as well. So there's a ton of data here that was all just put in some graphs for us, and we're going to see what kind of questions went well, what questions didn't go well, and our habits and behaviors that we can sort of refine a little bit. And be purposeful about, and some of the multiple choice questions that can be tricky Richard Nixon's. Okay, so let's take a moment and just talk about the best practice when it comes to taking this test, especially if you're taking it at home, and that's to take it in 25-minute chunks. Otherwise, you're not going to get your best performance. And this is actually something that neuroscientists encourage people who are practicing things that are difficult and let's be honest, unpleasant, like this test is. Okay, like most tests are. They're not a pleasant experience. They're a learning experience. They're a practice experience, and this definitely qualifies as some deliberate practice. Unless, of course, you love taking multiple choice tests, in which case, God bless you. All right. So the Pomodoro technique is basically this. You put yourself in as distraction-free environment as you are capable of finding or creating, right? No phone is out unless you're just using the timer, then put the phone in another room still. You don't want your phone within arm's reach. You don't want to be able to observe your phone. And you take 25 minutes of pure concentration. But when those 25 minutes are up, you set another timer for 5 or 10 minutes, depending. I would say 10 minutes if you're just starting this for the first time. And during those 10 minutes, you need to do something that's like the opposite of what you were doing, right? So you were sitting down, concentrating, and being studious. So you need to get up, listen to some music. You need to get up and dance. Get up, walk around. Do not get up and go read a book, or don't get up and work on some other class. You need to take 10 minutes precisely, not over 10 minutes, but 10 minutes to give yourself a chance to reset your brain and give your brain a chance to do something else. That way, that part of your brain gets refreshed, and then you can return with the fresh vim and vigor required for tests like this one, which are real humdingers. I'll be honest. Okay, this test is a humdinger. So it's based on Act Two of Anne Frank. I got that tab open as well, and God bless me for it. All right, and I've got the Anne Frank results or data right here. So let's look at the overall results first. Okay, the average score on this was proficient. So you average it all together. If you're above 14, you are proficient, which means on average, we are proficient when it comes to Act Two of Anne Frank, which is a very difficult act, in my opinion, and sometimes a very difficult play, not just for the content, but just for the complexity that comes with it and historical understanding. Okay? So we take a look at our scores there. You can see questions 1 through 7 really threw us through a loop. So we're going to look at those. It looks like we did pretty good on question 8, and then we fell down again for a little bit from questions 9 through 18, and then 19, 20, 21, and wow, look at 22. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Look at that one. Everybody was knocking that one out of the park. 23 as well, and 24, no one got correct. So we're going to go over the ones we got correct. We're going to go over the ones we got wrong. I'm going to skip over some of the names real quick, and let's look at some of how we did question to question. Okay. So as I take a second look at this data, it looks like a lot of us did actually pretty darn good on these opening questions. So I'll have to take a second look at how that first bar graph uh, has information or presents information on it. So let's see how it plays out as we go question from question. Okay. So question 1, in scene 1 of the Diary of Anne Frank, Act 2, why does Anne rage at Mr. Frank? Ooh, what a verb. All right. Let's look at the wrong answers. 3 people said Anne blames Mr. Frank for keeping her indoors all the time. Now, if we know Anne, we know she's usually not going to blame her father. She's usually going to blame her mother, right? C, Anne thinks that Mrs. Frank is giving Mr. Frank the largest share of the food. there's no part of Act Two that mentions anything about that. That's Mr. Van Daan, or Mrs. Van Daan rather. So I'm not sure why we would choose that one. That would be one of the easier ones. And then Anne believes that Mr. Frank always takes Mrs. Frank's side instead of Anne's. Now that one can be a little bit tricky. All right, that one can be a little bit tricky. I think Anne does believe that Mr. Frank also always takes Mrs. Frank's side instead of hers. However, let's take a look at the other one, the correct answer. Anne thinks that Mrs. Frank is unfair, insensitive, and lacking in understanding, right? So there might be a little bit of jealousy there, but there's nothing in the text to suggest that. So I think B is definitely the best answer, and I can see why 84% of us got that correct. Killing it. All right. This one was a little bit trickier, okay? Which sentence best explains why Mr. Van Daan's theft of bread in the Diary of Anne Frank 2 is such a serious act? Hold on, I wanted to write something down for number one. Okay. Got you. All right. Which sentence best explains why Mr. Van Daan's theft of bread in the Diary of Anne Frank is such a serious act? The correct answer there is there's little food, and Mr. Van Daan is not the only one who is hungry. Mr. Van Daan has had plenty to eat already. Mr. Van Daan denies that he's been stealing food. The stress of living together makes a small matter seem more important than it is. And that's not to say that A doesn't make sense, and that B is untrue, or that D, well, D is patently untrue. I don't know why we would answer D, but A and B are slightly trickier. But there's a little food, right? There's an actual condition everybody's dealing with. The stress of being of living together. If they had enough food, it would be a small matter, but it isn't a small matter. It's a big matter. Question 3. In the Diary of Anne Frank, Act 2, the attic inhabitants learn that Allied troops have landed in Normandy. How does this news affect them? Choose 2 options. Options A and E got your points for this one. It makes them joyful and it makes them apologetic towards each other. It sure don't make them suspicious, angry, or fearful, right? That's what they were before the event. So looking like we did pretty good on question 3. Question 4. In the Diary of Anne Frank, Act 2, who tells the Nazis about the people in the attic? The thief. Mr. Dussel does not. A worker, I can see why some people would have answered that. Meep, I don't know why anybody answered that. All right, Mr. Dussel would have condemned himself, as would Meep. So, question B, good one there. 5. In the Diary of Anne Frank, Act 2, why does Anne leave her diary behind when the Nazis come to take the families and Mr. Dussel away? The Nazis said they could take only clothing. That's just something you have to go back into the story. All right, you go to the very end. And you find it there in the next to last act before they're taken. Okay? So that's just like a search and find. All right. Now, we asked you guys a question, which one was the toughest one? And you guys said that question 3 was the toughest. And it looks like you guys said question 2 was the easiest. You said question 5 was the hardest. And you said medium difficulty wise, gotta say is question 3. Taking a look at our habits, it looked like having the phone on and the TV on was sort of our things that we had to deal with. It looks like 18 of us had some younger siblings that we had to deal with. If you had music with lyrics on, that's an easy fix. You just got to go to you can go to the youtubes.com, and on YouTube's you just type in this is mine for everyone to do. I type in Steven Universe concentration music, and then boom, an hour and 24 universe beats to study and relax to. All right, study with Connie. I just like that stuff. Ooh, come on. I'm gonna hit a freestyle real quick. Hit a freestyle real quick. When I study, when I test, I always want to do my best. I'm going to need some success, and so I'm gonna just check this test, this answer here. I'm gonna keep testing. I'm gonna keep it clear. The music with no lyrics, I really wanna hear it. When I'm taking tests, I will never fear it. Say, hey, oh, hey. So that's what you want to do. That this type of music is fine, right? You can just press play, and you can start taking the test again, right? Ooh, it's the answer key. Ooh. So you can have music like this going while you test. Looking at question 1 here. Right? You got it. You got it. Steven Universe's best show. You understand this. Okay. The noise level is loud, so if you have Italian relatives like me, of course that is something that can be an issue. And if you have a bunch of kids running around in the house, that is a huge issue I have in mind. So let's take a look. Killing it on question 6. Which of the following words has the same meaning as apprehension? Anxiety. I can understand getting anger there. Oh, this is the end of part 1 at question 6. Part 1 of question 6.